Is your author website truly working for you, or could it be silently turning readers away? In an age where first impressions are everything, having the right website can make or break your author brand. Are you confident yours is doing its job? Today, we're diving into the world of author websites with Pauline Wiles, an expert in minimalist website design who knows exactly what authors need to stand out online. Pauline isn't just about aesthetics, she's about strategy, helping authors build websites that don't just look good, but also drive results. Whether you're struggling with a clunky website or having no website at all, Pauline's insights can transform how readers connect with you and your books. Welcoming Pauline Wiles. How you doing, Pauline?
Hello, Dale. Great to be here. Thank you.
I'm geeked up to do this because you and I got to meet through mutual friend and, of course, former guest here of this channel, Maddie Dalrymple. You and I actually got to chat with the Alliance of Independent Authors. So I was kind of selfish and I'm like, you want to come on over to my channel?
Absolutely. Yes, let's do that.
So fantastic. Before we do jump into our little bit of our interview here, I wanted to address all of the live viewers and the replay viewers. If you guys have questions, please load us up inside the chat, preceded by the letter Q, so that way I can be able to identify it. As soon as I'm done with the interview, I'll go ahead and ask her some of these live question and answers. So please fire away all things website. I know you're in great hands here with Pauline. We had a great chat last time. And also, one little favor here. Where are you watching from? Let us know where you're watching from and what book are you currently promoting? No links. YouTube gets all fickle about that type of stuff. But one thing that YouTube's not fickle about is talking about websites here with an expert like Pauline. So Pauline, let's go ahead and let's break into things here. Boy, this is a whole can of worms. So why don't we just start it out with square one? A lot of authors always come to me and they say, Dale, what are the things that I need? And to me, I've always personally believed that the website is the most important place. Do you feel the same way about a website? And if so, why?
Yes, I do feel the same way. It's my business, so that's not surprising. I see your website as your mission control. It's your central hub of your online marketing as an author. And we've heard this said a few times now, it's real estate that you own. So when you claim your website, it's yours, you get to control what's on there, and it can stay with you then throughout your author career and serve really then as the central place that supports all of the other online marketing and real life marketing that you engage in as an author.
So what would you say are the must-have elements of a good author website? And when I say good author website, meaning that it's going to be the central hub for your readers, and it's also going to be potentially a spot where people discover your books and potentially buy them.
Yep. It depends a little bit what type of author you are. So that's genre, what stage you're at in your writing career, whether you have other streams of income that you're maximizing. But almost every author, of course, is going to want a really good, strong page that describes your work. Ideally, if you have books published with super clear and large book covers, places where you can link to for people to buy from you, some information about you, a way of getting in touch. And then my big favorite, don't forget to build your email list. So give your readers a way to opt in and say, yes, please, they want to hear from you.
You said two words, one phrase, email marketing. And a lot of people are probably cringing in their skin. I feel like that's very vital, especially with the website. Those two work in tandem so perfectly together. Why is email marketing so important, and why is it important on our websites?
So, as many experts will tell us, when somebody gives you their email address and they specifically give permission for you to stay in touch, then you have that relationship starting where you can politely but frequently be in their inbox, sharing what you want to share, and also building an ongoing relationship and nurturing that reader. It then is an asset that you own, so you're not building your house on the borrowed land or the shifting sands of social media or other platforms.
That makes sense. And what would you say is the best way for me to get somebody to part ways with their email address? Is it through side widgets, pop-ups? Is it going to be like an anchored type call to action at the bottom of my website? What's the best to worst?
A mix of strategies. I recommend layering a few things together. A fabulous place to start is what can you offer that reader in return as a thank you for their trust in you? So, a nice reader magnet or lead magnet. And yeah, we could probably do a whole episode on examples of what they can be. But something that your reader finds genuinely useful or valuable or entertaining as a gift in exchange for signing up. And then I'm a big fan of an email sign up form on every page, not just one page. Get it on every page. And yes, Dale, that old chestnut, the pop up is
Yeah.
super, super useful when it's done politely and with some care and thought as to your reader's experience as well.
You and I briefly spoke about that when we chatted on the Ally podcast about conversion rates when it comes to pop ups and such. I think we should probably just go back and repeat that somewhat. What's the best type of pop up and why are they so good at converting? Because it seems to me that by and large, anybody I talk to, like, oh my gosh, a pop up, I'm so sick of those. So, how do I tastefully do it and what's going to convert the best?
Yeah, so how you tastefully do it is you do not hit the website visitor with the pop-up as soon as they land on the web page. You give them time to look around, so the pop-up is delayed. It's nice, perhaps, if it slides gently in instead of smacking somebody in the face in the middle of the screen. And always focus on what's in it for them, not what's in it for you. So that's a reminder, hopefully a little visual of the reader magnet or the little gift they get for signing up, and give them something that is honestly and authentically valuable to them, the visitor.
Let's say worst case scenario. Is it possible for me to ask for an email if I have nothing in hand other than the promise of delivering value through an email newsletter subscription?
Yep, absolutely. There are authors. I have subscribed to their email list purely because I would like to hear when they have something new to share with me. So that is completely valid. There's a middle ground where you can, take your email list and they're your VIP readers. You can offer, conversations like this. There are many, many things you can do, even if you're not at the stage of having a specific piece of work to give away.
That's good. It's reassuring because I think that there's a lot of authors out there that feel overwhelmed because they're thinking about, oh gosh, I've got to write the book, I got to edit it, I got to format it, I got to promote it, I got to market it, and now I've got to put a pop up with a reader magnet in it as well. And so I just wanted to make sure that this wasn't something that was misguiding anybody on because I know that you've got a lot of expertise in this area. So I wanted to hear what your take was. So let's kind of discuss the websites itself. And you've talked about some of the things that we should have in place for a good website.
Mm.
Uh, I've heard a lot about blogging over the years. In fact, I was just reading David Gaughran's Following. It's his reader magnet, oddly enough, to get signed up for his newsletter. And he feels that blogging is just not something that's going to convert in book sales. How do you feel about blogging? Does it still carry the same value? And can we expect to see instant results or even long-term results from doing blogging on our websites?
Okay, so it's a nuanced answer, and definitely don't expect instant results. Blogging generally will be a good tactic or a worthwhile tactic to explore for non-fiction authors who are solving problems that people are going to Google and asking, how do I deal with this situation? And likely to be not so useful for novelists and memoirists unless you've got a very strong theme running through your work that naturally lends itself to articles and giving advice. So it is nuanced. It depends on the author. There are other good reasons to blog, like testing your work, finding your voice, building the writing habit. But I think, yeah, the days when blogging for every author is a blanket recommendation, yeah, I think those are long gone.
That's interesting. And I think it's pretty cool that you said that it's not completely dead for fiction authors. There's still some outliers for fiction writers that could potentially, dig into that. Would you say that it would be a good idea to maybe even share samples of my work that's in progress, maybe like a la Andy Weir from back in the day?
Yeah, I've spoken to two or three authors in the last week. They're not yet published, but they are establishing their first websites. And we've discussed the value of starting to, yeah, get used to publishing your work, test some of your work, build that habit, and start to feel confident with putting work out there into the world, definitely.
Gotcha. So there are so many different parts, moving parts when it comes to a great website between the domain name and the web hosting and even some of the content management services. Hopefully, I'm getting it right. Um, where do I start? Let's say I'm a new author and I've got a little bit of a budget to kind of play with. Where could I be able to start? What's the first best steps in setting up my website?
I would say the best thing you can possibly do for yourself is to know yourself and know your skills and preferences. Some of us, we love to write and we're also somewhat technical and we can flex between those two skill sets. Other authors, they just want nothing to do with the tech. You know, tech is a nightmare to them. They would much prefer to have nothing to do with it. So I think if you are somewhat technical, then you have more choices. And you and I have spoken before, Dale, about WordPress is a fabulous market leader. There are pros and cons. I
Right.
work on Squarespace, again, pros and cons. Any author needs to figure out, is this something that they want to learn themselves and wrap their arms around, or are they really looking for the easiest, simplest solution and possibly even hiring somebody to do it all for them? Until you get straight on those factors, yeah, I think you've got a headache coming on for sure.
So where would you say would be, let's start out with domain names. What would be a good domain name provider that I could be able to get that address that I look for? And what's the ideal domain name that I can get for my author brand?
If you know already that you want to use a certain website platform and that website provider offers domain names, then your life will be simpler if you purchase it there.
Okay,
If
makes
you're
sense.
much sooner in the process and you know that you've got some kind of author career ahead of you, but you're quite a way away from having a website, then you can buy the domain name anywhere. And then in future, you have the ability to just connect it up to wherever you actually decide that your home is going to be.
What's your preferred space?
My preferred
Like, where do you get your domain names? Is that through Squarespace as well?
complicated answer. I used to get my domain names through Google Domains,
Oh, really?
and then Squarespace bought every asset like that from Google Domains. Squarespace now manages all of those, and I have to say they're actually doing a very fine job of it.
What a happy coincidence that that ends up happening, especially now that you're very deeply entrenched in Squarespace then.
Yeah. So if a client comes to me and does not have a domain name, I am likely to say, you know what, let's keep life simple. Get your domain from Squarespace.
Yeah.
Full disclosure from myself, because I am perfectly happy with the idea of buying it in one place and connecting it up somewhere else. When I am shopping for a domain name, I will look at other providers like Namecheap and so on.
Love me some Namecheap. You can't beat them. They've been dead simple, easy, expensive to get, inexpensive to get. So good. And I'm glad that we locked on that one. So let's look over at web hosting. Where's the best web hosting? What's the best web hosting package for somebody who just needs a single site and potentially some email support of some sort? Because obviously we don't want to be emailing our readers with at Gmail or at Hotmail. Is anybody doing Hotmail these days? I'm not really sure.
Yeah, so when we talk about web hosting, we're pretty much in the territory where you're deciding what is your website tool going to be. If you are using WordPress, then yes, you will need some hosting, which means there needs to be a computer out there in the universe somewhere that you're paying for to have space on. Other providers like Wix and Squarespace and some of the other website platforms, they actually bundle all that together for you. So you don't need to go shopping for the separate pieces. Because it's many years since I moved away from WordPress, I am no longer qualified to talk about the best hosting for WordPress situations. But
Understandable.
on that topic of domain email, yes. So life has gotten interesting recently. For many good reasons, things are tightening up. So it's no longer cool and it's no longer actually effective to email your entire mailing list from something like a Gmail account. You will need an email address that ends in the domain name that you've purchased.
Could you expand just a little bit more? Why is that?
So, almost all of us have had phishing or spoofing attempts land in our inbox where somebody claims to be somebody they're not. I know in writing circles there have been a number of scams going around from supposedly prestigious organizations getting in touch with authors. And to clamp down on that, the big email delivery companies like Google and Yahoo have rightly decided that if I'm going to claim to be emailing somebody as my business name, brilliantauthor.com, then they want proof that I do actually, in fact, own that domain name and that I'm entitled to represent that brand.
Nice. I'm so glad you explained it. It was much better than probably what I would have said. But let's go ahead and just expand just a little bit more on the whole idea of the web hosting. What can we expect? In fact, let's go ahead and hit all of them of domain and web hosting and potentially the content management services. How much can I anticipate to spend, let's say, per month or even per year for a good website?
So, your total spend is going to depend heavily on how much you do yourself versus how much you need to hire help with.
Okay.
And a business mantra that I am now getting firmly behind is you will pay one way or the other. You'll either pay with your time or you'll pay with your money. If we think about it purely in monetary terms, then to have your domain plus a website for a year, I would budget around two to $300 US dollars probably.
Yeah.
I do know options for authors, writers who are just getting started and want something very simple that can go as low as I think the best that I recommend goes as low as about 35 US dollars a year.
That's not bad. Uh, and
That's a very simple website. That is
yeah,
not going to be the website that
dead
takes
simple.
seven-figure business.
Yeah, and it's good to kind of get started. Let's just pretend though, Pauline, like I am strapped for cash. I do not have any money to spend. Heck, I can't even pay attention half the time. But boom. So, what would be the cheapest, most effective thing to hold me for now until I could scrape together, let's say that $200 to $300 budget per year?
Okay, so the cheapest that I have personally used and I love and I have experience with is a tool called card.co, CARRD.co. And for that, you need your domain name and the plan that you need to get going on card is 19 US dollars a year, 19. I have not played with it, but in recent months, I have been made aware that PayHip, if you sell your books through them, they do offer a website tool where I believe that is uh, free at the point of use. So that doesn't mean that you're
Okay.
not paying commissions and fees somewhere else, but there are some good budget options out there. Yep.
So true. I didn't even think about PayHip because I use PayHip quite a bit, but I've not used their website or storefront type stuff. I usually just send people directly to the product page, but that's brilliant because PayHip,
I have not built on it, so that's
yeah,
not an endorsement, but it's
yeah,
an option to
it is
explore.
definitely an option, and it hopefully more authors can realize that they can take advantage of a lot of these things. And the cool thing about PayHip too is when you do have a customer, whether it's a free download or a paid download, they will automatically be opted in to your email subscription list. You can be able to opt that in, or you can give them the option to opt into your email list. So that's
Yeah,
brilliant. I'm
let's hope the customer is aware of what they're being opted into.
Yeah,
Best
hopefully.
practice is to get permission. Yeah.
For sure, for sure. So yeah, that's brilliant that you bring up PayHip. I guess I'd never thought about that as a potential website hosting. Let me go ahead and get a hold of SiteGround here. I'm gonna tell them to disconnect my stuff. I'm going to PayHip. Totally joking. Pauline's like just cringing at her skin. Please don't do that, Dale.
I'm
Oh my
not so
gosh.
worried for you, Dale. I'm worried about people who might be listening and watching.
Right, right. They're like, wait, I gotta what? And then he's gonna automatically subscribe to everything. Oh, this is great. Thanks, Dale. When you're working with some of your clients, I'm sure you've cleaned up many a disaster before. What were some of the most precarious situations that you've walked into? You don't need to throw any one author under the bus, but if you can kind of share some of the biggest mistakes that you've seen on author websites, let me hear it.
The biggest mistake I see is a massive amount of clutter on a website that was built 10 years ago and hasn't been touched since. Um, as creative people, I think as authors, we get quite excited when we have a website, and our tendency is to use it as the Wikipedia of everything we've ever done and produced. And when I see authors who have layered on top, I wrote this, I had this for breakfast, this happened 6 years ago, and it's all still on the website. Um, that, frankly, is using your website for your own personal scrapbook and not to serve your audience and to serve your reader. So decluttering with your audience in mind and thinking, what does my reader actually need to see? What can I show them that best presents my work as professional and thoughtful and valuable? And then, of course, making it very easy for them to take the next step, whatever that next step that you as the author would like to see them do.
Very cool. I wonder if there's any possibility, maybe one day I can bring you back to the channel, maybe into 2025, that you could do maybe an author website audit, that you can look at some people's websites. Because I'd love to throw myself into the mix and get your thoughts on some of the areas I can clean up. But as soon as you said it turns into someone's scrapbook, I'm just kind of going over here going, yeah, I probably had to lighten up a little bit on my site. So what kind of recommendations would you have for right now that someone can self audit their website to make sure that it's all in place?
Yeah, so make sure you, as the author, have got very clear in your mind after somebody visits the website, what is the ideal action you would like them to take? And if for some reason they're not ready or willing to take that action, what's your second choice? For many authors, when my clients come to me, they say, oh, I want to sell the book, sell the book, sell the book. And I have to remind them that building their email list in the long term can be more valuable than just landing that first initial book sale. But fair to say, for many authors, those two actions, or if you're consulting or you have other streams of income, maybe even scheduling a consultation, these are fabulous actions for you as the author business owner to focus on. And so once you're clear on those actions, then you look at your website and with some cold, hard eyes and self-critique, you can say, is that action very obvious to the visitor that this is what they should do next?
Good stuff. Is there anybody that, let's say, if there's maybe a few authors off the top of your head, obviously brilliantauthor.com is going to be one area that people can kind of go and look and say, ooh, compare and contrast and see what you're doing. What are some other author websites that you can probably recommend that people can check out that are great examples of how to set up an author website?
I think instead of recommending particular websites, and of
Okay.
course, yes, my portfolio is fabulous, I would say just notice how you as a reader behave. This was incredibly useful to me in my business when I was out shopping for another business service. I noticed how am I making decisions about what I'm seeing? And if you visit other websites as a reader and think, well, what's catching my eye? What is causing me to want to take action or not take action? You can learn a lot and then turn that around and apply it to yourself.
Good stuff. I knew you and I were going to fly through time like it was nobody's business. And before I do jump into my last battery of questions in the lightning round and such, I do want to, of course, mention to folks that Pauline actually is available for hire. Pauline, could you give a little bit more details about your services?
Yeah, absolutely. I work one-to-one with authors. I call them business-minded authors because when people find me, they are usually ready to invest in an author website for a long-term business. They want expert advice. I never start any website project without giving quite a lot of opinions about your overall book marketing direction. And then it's a very high touch service where I work with one client at a time and we design, build, and launch your website in a very focused project together.
I believe you also do Maddie Dalrymple's site, right?
Matty and I have a collaborative arrangement
Good, good.
where I got her started. Matty has done a lot of the heavy lifting herself. She's done a fabulous job.
It's a good site.
And and then I have been involved also to give some polish at the time she was ready to launch. So credit to Matty as well for her site.
Yes, big shout out to Maddie for sure. And of course, if anybody wants more information about your services, they go to brilliantauthor.com. Am I correct?
Perfect, thank you.
Excellent. It's time for our 2-minute lightning round where we dive into rapid fire questions designed to spark quick, honest, and spontaneous answers. Each question is aimed at giving viewers fresh insights into my guests' unique experiences and personality, all with a twist of fun. Our guest has 2 minutes to answer each question or say pass and move on. Expect candid thoughts, fast-paced reflections, and maybe, just maybe, a few surprises. Pauline, are you ready?
Sure thing.
As soon as I'm done reading the very first question, I'm going to start that timer. You won't see that timer, but you got to trust me that I'm keeping an eye on it. So here we go. The first question is, what's the last book you couldn't put down?
Remarkably Bright Creatures.
Coffee or tea while writing?
T.
If you could have dinner with any author, living or dead, who would it be?
Jane Austen.
Favorite genre to read?
Romantic comedy.
What's your dream travel destination?
Chile.
One word to describe your writing process.
Dormant.
Most underrated book every author should read.
Reach by Becky Robinson.
Favorite writing snack?
Cookies.
If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
2 hours sleep a night.
Biggest pet peeve when editing or reviewing a manuscript?
Pass.
What book genre would you never try writing?
Horror.
Pen and paper or typing?
Typing.
The best piece of advice you've ever received?
Things will look better in the morning.
If you weren't an author, what would you be?
A website designer.
Do you prefer plotting your book in detail or just winging it?
Plotting.
If your life were a book, what genre would it be?
I'll pass on that one.
Hardcovers, paperbacks, or ebooks?
Um, Paperbacks.
What's the strangest place you found writing inspiration?
Half Dome at Yosemite National Park.
Best part of being an author?
People watching.
One word to describe where you see your career in 5 years.
Serene.
And time. What was that last answer?
Serene. Serene.
Gotcha. Good stuff. All right, and let me shut off that little alarm there. It's ringing in my ear here. So, Pauline, you have been just fantastic. I do appreciate you taking a little bit of time out your day. Would you mind entertaining a few questions here with the audience here right after I ask you my final question?
Of
What
course.
advice do you have for aspiring authors and self-publishers out there?
Establish a website, but give yourself permission to keep it simple and allow it to grow and evolve over time.
Dead simple. I freaking love it. All right. So if you're willing to do the question and answer, let's go ahead and pop in. I did see a few people that came in here. I'm going to go ahead and give a few shout outs here real fast. Butcher, it's great to see you join us here. The indie author, of course, Maddie Dalrymple shows up. I did email her. I let her know. I was like, hey, Pauline's coming on today. I was like, you're not obligated to come here. Rusty Knox, good afternoon. Great to see you. Yame says, hi, fellow authors. Great to see you, buddy. I can attest to Pauline's skill with websites. She's helped me with mine. Thank you so much for sharing there, Maddie. Thank you so much. You do have an awesome website, though. Greetings from sunny California. Great to see you here, Dovey Ruth. Outside Philly. Yeah, there we go. Poland. Oh, there we go. Mojo's tuning in, which I know Mojo's got a question here. Rusty Knox says, listening from Pensacola, Florida, and promoting my camping journal, blank guitar tab books, and a fantasy novella, The Blade in the Palace. Good stuff. Here we go. Guillaume says, I did have a WordPress site in which I did myself. When I get more money coming, I'll resurrect it. Got it saved for when the time comes. It's good news, right? Hopefully we inspired him to go ahead and get that going.
Yeah, I would say publish one page, even a simple presence is a great start. Yeah.
If you were to say like just a simple landing page, what would I put on there as like a placeholder?
Depending what stage of your writing you're at, a little
Yeah.
bit about what you write and what's available, and a way of joining your email list, and a way of contacting you.
I almost forgot about the email list. Just at least get the pop up there. There you go. Guillaume, make sure you jump on that one there. And I know that you can get free email marketing services up to 1,000 subscribers with like MailerLite, ConvertKit, MailChimp. All of them have that type of stuff. You can get at least going. So that way it's not burdening you too much. Mojo's got a question here. She's a rather tenured author in this space. So she has 13 series, 12 nonfiction, and one fiction. Should I keep my menu drop down listing all the series? I've noticed longer series titles look funky and I plan to work on it in a couple of weeks. What are your recommendations, Pauline?
So this sounds like a lot of books if we've got this many series and each series had a book in it.
Yeah.
For the menu drop down, I think your reader needs to understand what they will get if they go to each option. So it might be worth considering instead of the series name, some characteristic of the series. Go here for historical or go here for sci-fi or whatever it is that you write. Anytime a reader is looking at a menu and they're not instinctively clear on what kind of thing they will find when they go there, then I think we can reconsider the menu.
Nice. So keep it simple as possible is what you're saying.
Yeah, and maybe consider an intermediary page where the reader goes and then helps get some direction for where it is that they actually should be browsing.
Perfect. All right. I see that in Lang. Nick, it's good to see you, buddy. I still have the WordPress name. I've had it for 8 years. Should I change it to my name yet? I'm not sure I know what Nick means on this one right here. Do you
Sounds
have
a
any
bit like
ideas?
the sounds like the domain name might have WordPress somewhere still in the domain name.
Like DaleLRoberts.wordpress.com, something like that, like the subdomain.
That's my guess as to what we might be talking about here.
Hmm.
Yes, I would say when possible, claim your name, and then your options are open for wherever your website needs to take you in the future.
What would you say is the best domain name for authors to go with? I'm sorry if I'm kind of repeating myself on this one here.
So almost always, if you can get your own name.com, or if you are very regionally focused and based, for example, I'm from the UK, some authors want to be yourname.co.uk.
Hmm.
That is usually ideal. These days, it's becoming rare to be able to grab that name. So you might need to do something like yournameauthor.com or yournamebooks.com. I rarely recommend the book series or the book title because that tends to box you in as only being about that one book.
Good stuff. Benjamin says, I'm with Dale. I wonder how good my author website is good enough to help get readers. One thing I would recommend to you, Benjamin, is join our Discord community and just ask for some peer feedback. There's a lot of really cool people on our Discord server. They're not going to beat you up. They'll probably tell you, though, if your baby's ugly, they're going to probably say it in a very tactful way, unlike me here. But that would probably be another way. What would be a recommendation you would give, Pauline, as far as where this person can find feedback for their website?
Yeah, I think that's super smart. Buddying up with another author that you have already collaborated with, maybe you've traded manuscript reviews. Ideally, find somebody either in your genre or close, because reader expectations and our preferences as readers, they do vary according to what type of site we're looking at.
Good stuff. Shout out to Benjamin D2 as well. Thank you so much for the becoming a patron. Looks like you are on fire right now with your banana sticker and the channel membership. So thank you so much. Anybody wants more details about channel memberships, there's a join button down below this video. You can go ahead and click that. And of course, there is a link to Pauline's services inside the video description. Please, folks, go and visit it and you'll see why I gush so much about how good her sites look. She has plenty of examples there. Sea Devil says, how much? How much for what? 20 cents. I don't know what you're going to bid for this, Pauline, but let's get in it while we can. It's a joke. I'm sorry. Benjamin D says, I'm thinking the same thing with my series. I have 3 main series I'm going to write in mini standalone. How to add the series to the navigation. Gotcha. Let's talk bills. Yeah, so looks like I'm getting some of the comments when I was talking about prices. All right. Aaron Legacy says, what's your thoughts on an author blog? We kind of briefly touched on that in the interview. Do you want to kind of revisit some of that there?
To recap, the general advice I would give is non-fiction worth thinking about.
Mhm.
Fiction, have other reasons over and above book marketing.
Good stuff. It's a little harder for fiction, I would imagine. Um, we can set up purchasing on the website. Absolutely, you can be able to set up purchasing in so many capacities. What recommendations do you have for that, Pauline?
I think that's a really great thing to look at once you have an audience, maybe once you have more than one book published. I worry about that being offered as a marketing tactic for a brand new author because it's like the chicken and the egg. You're not going to sell many books until you've got some audience. But once you've got fans, once you've got a number of books published, then yeah, definitely worth exploring.
Good stuff. All right, let's see here. Next question. Benjamin says, I currently have separate pages for each book. I only have two. When I start my second series, should I add a drop down for series altogether or have separate drop down for each series?
Yeah, there tends to be a tipping point once you get past, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 books in total. And since we've already talked about our good friend Matty Dalrymple, she and I had this conversation about she has now reached the number of books where it doesn't make sense to have one page for every single book. So I would say for your first two, three, 4 books, don't worry about it, have them on separate pages. And then there will come a point where you naturally want to organize by series, so that your reader doesn't have to explore many, many pages. And of course, at that point, be sure that you're signaling very clearly what the first in each series is so they know where to get started.
I know with Squarespace, do they have like a built-in checkout system, like a shopping cart type thing?
They have an online store feature that
Yeah.
several of my clients have added. That is fabulous for keeping a stock of books at home that you will sign and
Mm.
mail out to readers.
Yeah.
Squarespace are lagging behind on a print-on-demand book integration. So
Mm.
if that is a key part of a business model, then that should certainly come into the decision you make about where your online home is going to be.
Yeah, maybe we got to get a shout out to like Book Vault or Lulu and have them integrate with Squarespace. We got to do some introducing. Do you know anybody over at Squarespace yet, Pauline?
I have attempted to put these feature requests in.
Yeah.
Let's just say I am optimistic because, as we know, self-publishing is a booming business, Dale, and you can speak to that much better than I can.
Ah, thank you. You flatter me. That's so nice of you. All right, let's see here. If there's any other questions, please fire away. And Sea Devil has a question. Are Pauline's websites designed for selling wide?
Um, I think your website should always support selling wide,
Mm.
and it's then a choice that you make on your website where you're linking to, where you're sending readers
Mm.
to buy the book. So yes, if I have an author client and they've only published on Amazon, then of course we only link to Amazon. But otherwise, you decide either what your favorite retailers are, or better still, the universal book link that puts that choice in the hands of your reader to say, well, where would you like to get this book? It's available in all of these places.
Out of curiosity, where do you get your universal book links?
I think the most recent one I did for a client was Booklinker.
Booklinker. Okay, so you like that. Question for you. I haven't used Booklinker before because I've always been using books to read through Drafted Digital.
Or
Um,
was it Books to Read? Yeah.
was it books to read?
You've confused me now.
Yeah,
Those are the two that are top of mind.
they're free. You can't beat free, right?
Now that I'm on the spot, I'm not actually sure what the last one I did was. Um,
Hey, okay. I don't think anybody's going to hold it against you.
I think I would say to people, go and check out Mattie's site, whatever she's using. I think that was the last one I did for another client.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just kind of curious because I wasn't sure if Booklinker does anything beyond Amazon. Maybe someone can say in the live video here if they handle everything outside of Amazon. Because the reason why I go to Books to Read is they handle dozens of different, links. Universal book links, folks. Use them. This is a public service announcement. You not only have one expert saying that you should do it, you got me as well. I don't know if I want to throw myself in the expert category, but nonetheless, I've experienced enough to know that universal book links removes friction for your potential readers. So, all right. Benjamin says, thank you for your advice. I'll be working on the website near the beginning of my second series, The Document Thief. Awesome. That's really cool, Benjamin. Thank you so much. And speaking of thank you, Pauline, you've been fantastic. We've burned through nearly 45 minutes of content. And one more time, how can people get a hold of you, and what are the services what can they anticipate in getting your services, I meant to say?
My services are website strategy advice for authors, followed by website design for authors. And as of very recently, you can now find me at brilliantauthor.com.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm going to send you over to the green room. Feel free to help yourself to the snacks over there while I go ahead and wrap up today's broadcast. Folks, join me next Tuesday, December 17th at 4:15 p.m. Eastern Daytime when I interview a return guest in my public accountant. Yes, my CPA is going to be coming again, Aaron Engelbrecht, about taxes for authors. He's going to cover all those types of questions. So please come loaded with questions to get deeper insights into taxes from my accountant. I will see you then. Let's go ahead and roll that beautiful bean footage. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in. Special shout out to my channel members for both the podcast channel and the main channel. Without your support, some projects we do at Self-Publishing with Dale would be much harder to fund. If you want to contribute to the cause, visit dalelinks.com/memberships for details and get your on-screen shout out at the end of each broadcast. Till later, this has been Self-Publishing with Dale, and I'll see you soon.